Now, I had originally predicted after the election, I figured that Warnock would win, Ossoff would lose. Because one of the things that we saw in the general election was that people were splitting the ticket. They were voting against Trump, but then deciding that they wanted to split government. One of my friends, his grandmother in Kentucky, told him about how she had to vote against Trump, but that means that she had to vote for McConnell. Because there's something about this older mindset that they feel a deadlocked government is best. So my original prediction was that they would split the races in Georgia. After seeing how everything has played out, with the Cope rallies, the Republicans splitting the vote, and then Democrats have actually messaged this very well and made it a referendum on McConnell and the Republican Party. So my prediction now is that it's going to go one way or the other. It's going to be the Democrats win both seats or the Republicans win both seats. It's not going to be a split ticket. And so far, it looks like the Democrats have the momentum going into this. This is the live look at Washington, D.C., where the quote-unquote patriots have gathered to protest the certification of the Electoral College tomorrow by Congress. Tomorrow is gonna be wild. Senate Republicans commit to a coup. Believe me, I don't doubt it. Okay, so going back to the Georgia Senate race, I cannot see the link. I actually have the wrong video here. Can't allow the links on the Twitch. You get bombarded with spam. So one of the things in the Georgia Senate race that I'm actually proud of Democrats for once in my life, they have messaged this well, is that we have Jon Ossoff actually taking the fight to David Perdue. Now, this was the last time that Perdue would debate Ossoff. I believe it was their second debate. He skipped the third debate, and then they had another debate scheduled for the special election. But this is the reason why David Perdue has been running scared from Jon Ossoff.
It's that you're attacking the health of the people that you represent.
He would be nothing but a rubber stamp for Chuck Schumer. And the reason I'm talking about the same words is that he does it all the time, and that is he's saying things that will disclose or that will disguise his real radical socialist agenda.
Perhaps Senator Perdue would have been able to respond properly to the COVID-19 pandemic if you hadn't been fending off multiple federal investigations for insider trading in the middle of a pandemic that is worsening. A pandemic that Senator Perdue told us.
Also, that Senator Perdue has not been able to campaign in because he is currently quarantined for exposure to COVID.
Senator Perdue is still supporting a lawsuit to repeal the Affordable Care Act.
We've got to hold accountable the people that helped create this pandemic, and that's the country of China. Communist China today is one of our biggest threats. This man worked for him for 2 years, and we've heard it already. He is now not acknowledging that he worked for that company. In the last debate, he said absolutely not. But I'm here to tell you that there is a document, and I have it right here, This is his July filing where he disclosed to the federal
You gotta
government.
love it. Visual aids have
Now there's a responsibility
taken over
here he
politics.
needs to own up to, because sooner or later we need somebody in the United States Senate that will stand up to communist China.
This is so beneath the office of a U.S. Senator. You've continued to demean yourself throughout this campaign with your conduct. First, you were lengthening my nose in attack ads to remind everybody that I'm Jewish.
Oh yeah, not only, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit, Perdue lengthened his nose to remind everybody that he was Jewish. Loeffler darkened Raphael Warnock's skin in an ad and got caught. But I'm going to talk about that. That's a tactic of Republicans.
Then when that didn't work, you started calling me some kind of Islamic terrorist. And then when that didn't work, you started calling me a Chinese communist. It's ridiculous. And you shouldn't do everything that your handlers in Washington
They're just
tell you.
throwing everything at the
You'll lose your
wall.
soul along the way, Senator.
So that's the reason why Perdue would not debate Ossoff after that. And I've got to give props to Ossoff. Not only did he land jabs against Perdue, he landed jabs on Kelly Loeffler. So Fox News rolled up on him, as he says, gave him free airtime in prime time. And he took full advantage of it. 7 million views on Twitter. Plus live on Fox
Now we have
News.
a crisis of corruption in American politics. And since we're live on Fox, let me take this opportunity to address directly
He has
to
been.
the Fox audience. We have 2 United States senators in Georgia who have blatantly used
We just watched the clip of him in the debate with
themselves.
Perdue calling him a criminal.
This is beyond partisanship. And the reason to your question that I talk so much about health and jobs and justice for all the people.
Hey, Warnock has won me over too. All the right-wing attacks on him have forced me to actually look up and find out what they were talking about. The whole thing about him impeding an investigation by the police. Turns out he was stepping in to make sure that a underage kid that they were questioning had legal representation. Made me like him so much more. But here's Ossoff with his knockout blow to Kelly Loeffler.
Is that we can unite behind that program. We've lost 9 rural hospitals in Georgia in 10 years. We can reopen them. We can invest in infrastructure to build jobs, revitalize our communities, create opportunity, raise the minimum wage so that people doing an honest week's work can not just survive, but can thrive. And yes, pass landmark civil rights and voting rights legislation to secure equal justice for all. And I humbly and respectfully
Somebody
request the
this
support
hype
of
man in the
everyone who is
background.
tuning in on
Yeah.
Fox right now. And I'd love for you to log on to electJohn, electjon.com. That's electjon.
He even plugged his website on Fox.
And one more
That's
quick one while
slick.
we've got you. Any concern that the allegations of wrongdoing against Reverend Warnock could possibly be a drag on the Democratic ticket next week?
None whatsoever. Reverend Warnock addressed this issue a year ago. And here's the bottom line. Kelly Loeffler has been campaigning.
He
with a
flipped
Klansman.
it.
Kelly Loeffler has been campaigning with a Klansman. And so she is stooping to these vicious personal attacks to distract from the fact that she's been campaigning with a former member of the Ku Klux Klan. I mean, we deserve better than that here in Georgia. And I want to encourage everybody to make a plan to vote on Tuesday. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you, Mr. Ossoff, very much. All right.
I love that little laugh. She's been campaigning with a Klansman. Like, it's just so absurd to him. And it is absurd. Now, she responded to that attack. I shouldn't call it an attack because it's a simple fact. She called Ossoff a pathological liar. But I mean, I've seen the picture. We showed it. I showed it 2 weeks ago on the show. Leffler, I fuck her name up all the time. Sorry, Leffler said she didn't know who the former Klansman was when she snapped a photo with him. So not even denying that he's a former Klansman and that he was later removed from her event. And just like her response is like, ooh, he lacks credibility. Every Georgian knows that John Ossoff is a pathological liar and he's a trust fund socialist. The nerve of her! Who's never had a job other than through the Chinese Communist Party. Wow! Now, if you haven't heard her speak before, you might not find my impression funny. But allow me to sum up all of the debates between Reverend Warnock and Kelly Loeffler with this 30-second clip.
Continue to fight for, to make sure that Georgians know everything is at stake in this election, the future of our country, not just the radical ideas of the left, but the radical candidates who would defund the police, who would stand by and attack our military and then withdraw funds that would support Chuck Schumer's defunding of our military by 25%. And I'm going to continue to make sure that we come back from this virus strong. I'm the only candidate qualified to help rebuild our economy and get past this pandemic.
All right.
That's what I'm going to continue to fight for, to make sure that Georgia...
It might be hyperbole, but she was definitely campaigning and there was a Klansman there. The Republicans would say it that way. I hate to be the like, well, that's just politics. But not only did Loeffler fire back at Warnock, she released a new ad. And her new Facebook ad darkens the skin of Reverend Warnock. Ran a paid Facebook ad last week that artificially darkened the skin color of her Democratic opponent, who is black. In fact, the campaign used 2 of the same clips in their original form for another Facebook ad that ran the same day, but spent 10 times as much money boosting the version in which Warnock appeared darker. Wow. But now, as I pointed out, this is a common right-wing tactic, because the people that they appeal to, this isn't going to hurt them with. So they do this in order to get more news coverage for their ads. They get their ads free plays on shows like this that mock right-wingers and shit. They get more bang for their buck out of these ads. You are correct, and that's a whole nother can of worms. Facebook's moderation policies. But I can't believe that these same tactics just continue to work. The Republican playbook, it's so trite. It's so passé. They've done these things so many times. I can't believe the rubes keep falling for it. And do I blame the media though? Do you because this story in Salon is exactly what she wanted to happen, or the campaign wanted to happen, her handlers wanted to happen. %37 of the votes counted. I'm sorry, I was off earlier. 55% of the vote to John Ossoff right now, as we monitor the returns. I hope so. Good Lord, I hope so. All right, this is
This is
an ad Reverend Warnock on the phone. I just said that.
Races has been razor thin, and I actually was looking at the numbers from the November general election today, and the difference between the Republican votes and the Democrat votes was just more than 47,000. Then if you analyze the other votes, there's about 3,000 between the left-leaning votes and the right-leaning votes. So what are you hearing internally from your people that makes you believe you can make up that gap?
Listen, I'm doing the same thing that I do every Sunday morning. I'm making my case and for what I believe. And the wonderful thing about a democracy is tonight is all about the people. They get to speak. The people have spoken are the four most powerful words of a democracy. And I trust the verdict and will respect the verdict, which is not something that we're witnessing, unfortunately, in a moment like this.
It does look like,
and unfortunately,
a lot of the votes that are coming in are coming from more urban areas, though. Looks like you got a lot of votes coming from the expected Democrat areas, with a lot of the rural area yet to go. It is probably going to be incredibly tight. And one of the things that I looked up last night was when they're allowed to start counting their early voting and mail-in voting. Apparently, they can't actually tabulate it, but they can put all the votes. They actually passed a law between the general election and now to where they can begin the process and have everything laid out. And basically all they have to do is hit the button to tabulate as soon as the polls close. So we should know at some point in time tonight or in the early morning in Wednesday. It could also be incredibly close and we might not know for a couple of days. But more than likely we will know tonight. Turnout has been, I don't think that it is going to outpace the general election, they said. But it is going to be like historic for a special election in Georgia, or a runoff election.